Chapter 12. The Pigs That Preach the Gospel. Love is remembered, in heaven remembered. Love shall be crowned when the victory is won. Good cannot perish, bright ages shall cherish holy remembrance of what love has done. What a filthy place this is! It was Teacher DeWatt speaking. He had just come to the spring to take his morning wash. At his approach, the whole herd of pigs had slithered out of the mud and scampered down the hill. Something must be done about it. It's not right for Christian people to have to put up with such dirty animals. Condima, who was following him down to the spring, with her cake of yellow soap and her bundle of dirty clothes, held her nose and made a snorting exclamation of disgust. "Are there pigs in other countries?" she asked the young teacher. "Yes, I suppose there are," he answered, "but I'm sure they're not allowed to run everywhere and dirty everything people have to live with. I've heard that none of the people who worship God keep pigs." Kadima spread her washing on the rock and waited patiently for the water to settle. "That's not entirely true," Teacher Dawad replied, as he also waited. "You see, many millions of people are Mohammedans, and they all hate pigs. No pigs are allowed in any of their village, so people have got the idea that all worshippers of God hate pigs. Well, I hate them." Kadima began to wash. "I wonder if all the Christian people would help if we built the fence that would keep them out of our side of the village." "That's a good idea, child." Dawad scratched his head. "Of course, we couldn't fence the spring, but it would keep them out of our gardens and away from our homes. The good idea about the fence might have waited for many a day to be carried out, but something else happened that very day to arouse the anger of the village people to fever heat. Gulan's house stood near to the house of Kandima's father. In fact, these two houses marked a rough boundary line between the heathen and the Christian sides of the village. Since Gulan had more pigs than anyone else, they were always swarming around the hut of Kandima. "Take Bonnie down and let him play on the grass with his motor cars," Mother said to Chaya. "He makes so much noise, the baby won't go to sleep." Chaya picked up her brother and carried him down to a small patch of grass under the durian tree. Just at that moment, Kandima came down the ladder with a small bag of something in her hand. "What is it, Kandima?" Chaya was up in a minute, and her brown eyes grew big with surprise as she saw her little sister untie her handkerchief and empty out a quantity of brown seed. "What are they?" Mukit came to see, and Elijah looked out the window of her hut, then scurried down the ladder. "These are apple seeds," she explained to the wondering children. Then she ran back into the house to bring out a picture book with a picture of a large, round, red fruit. "I had one of them every day in the hospital, and I saved all the seeds. I'm going to plant them, and maybe they will grow up and have apples on them." Kadima danced with excitement. She tied the seeds in the handkerchief again. "I will plant them when we can keep the pigs away." While the children had been absorbed in the wonderful apple seeds, baby Bonnie had gone on an expedition of his own. He had left the spot of green grass and was now crawling in the mud under Kokit's house. And old Sal with a litter of young pigs was there also, and she resented this small intruder. She rushed at him with a heavy grunt, knocking him over on his back and fastening her teeth into one fat leg. Baby Bonnie yelled. Such screams and howls issued from under the house that people came running from all directions. Bonnie was rescued by Chaya and carried to the spring, where his wound was washed, and he was given some first aid treatment by Teacher Dawad. But Kandima, Mukit, and Elijah did not stop screaming. Some kind of terror seemed to have laid hold on them. In all their lives, they had never known a pig to bite anyone before. They knew that the pigs were dirty and smelly and a dreadful nuisance, but the fact that one of them would bite a baby, their own baby Bonnie, filled the children with such terror that they gave way to uncontrolled fright. That evening, when father returned from the rice fields, he was told the whole story. He examined his little son's leg and found it swollen and red from the pig bite. His anger rose. Putting the child in the mother's arms, he went down the ladder and over to Teacher Dawad's house. Is there nothing to be done about these pigs? His eyes flashed. Gandima had followed him, fairly bursting with rage herself. I think the time has come for all the Christian men in this village to make a protest to the government. Teacher Dawad exclaimed. At the time, and the time has come, for us to get together and build a stout fence around our houses. In the excitement of the moment, several strong men volunteered. Strong stakes were cut and driven deeply into the earth. Then heavy strains of rattan were woven between them to make a stout fence. Teacher Dawad encouraged them to keep at work, and in a few days the barrier was complete, and also the protest had been sent to the government. Weeks went by. It had been nearly 4 months since Kadima had returned to the village. The peg-tight fence had worked very well. A few weak places had been revealed from time to time, but willing hands always laid hold and built a stronger barrier than before. The two portions of the village began to assume quite a different appearance. All the Christian people had planted gardens about their house. Tuan had furnished flower seeds, and some vegetable seeds had been gotten from the Chinese gardeners down in the far valley. Kandima had planted some of her apple seeds, and they had grown a few beautiful leaves. These were the pride of the small folk in the village. Kandima and Chaya watched over them every hour. The green grass had also sprung up around the huts of the Christian villagers, but the pig-infested portion of the village presented a most disgusting appearance. It came about that when any of the heathen women wanted to sit outside in the sun to weave or sew, they always came over the fence and sat down where the ground was clean. Tuan is coming! Tuan is coming! Mukit shouted the glad news through the village. Sure enough, a group of travelers was just emerging from the jungle in the dusk of evening. It was already too dark to see clearly who was coming. It is not our Tuan. Kadima watched the party draw near. I never saw this Tuan before. Teacher Dawad went out to meet the newcomers and invited them to his neat cottage, where they entered with grateful expressions of thanks. It is the government, Tuan. Father explained to his family a few minutes later. He has come to answer our complaint about the pigs. Father put on his best shirt, went down the ladder and over to Dawad's house. Come, Chaya, let us hide in Dawad's kitchen. Then we can see and hear what goes on. Kandima drew her sister with her, and the two girls squatted in the darkness just inside the kitchen door. They could hear fairly well, but could not be easily seen. Of course, you know that the government allows all people to keep whatever animals they require for the use of their households. It was the new Tuan speaking, the government Tuan. He was a young man with kind blue eyes. We can't prohibit anyone from keeping pigs. He shifted his tired legs a little. It seems rather unreasonable for you, addressing Dawad, to request that a government official should come here and discuss it with you. Teacher Dawad spoke very gently. We do not wish to be unkind to our neighbors, he began. We only wish to live in peace and quietness, and have our gardens and our houses clean. And we like to have proper places for our children to play, where the pigs will not molest them. Then father spoke up and told how the pig had bitten baby Bonnie. Some of the other villagers had something to say also. The heathen men were all arguing for the pigs. Finally, the government Tuan said he was very tired, and they would discuss it some more in the morning when he had time to talk more fully about it. Kadima was at the spring early in the morning. So were Dawad and several others, including the visitors. As usual, the pigs had been there first. Everyone had to wait for the fouled water to settle before they could have their morning wash. I say, my friend, these pigs are dirty things. It was the government Tuan speaking. Teacher Duad said nothing. Is this the Christian side of the village? Asked the official as he climbed the still over the fence to get back to Teacher Duad's house. We have built a fence around our homes, said Duad, watching with interest the exploring eyes of the Tuan as he stood on the top of the still and looked first at one section of the village and then at the other. What are these? He asked of Kadima, who was eagerly watching every move and listening to every word. What are these plants? They look like young apple trees. Yes, yes, Kadima said as she looked up into his face. They are my apple trees. She swept her hand over them proudly. These are the flowers of Chaya and Mukit. She indicated a bed of marigolds and zinnias in full bloom. Now, exactly what do you want done about these pigs? The government official asked a teacher Dawad when they reached his house. We want the pigs to be fenced in proper pens, or else we want them to be gotten rid of, Dawad answered. Of course, the best thing would be if the heathen people could be persuaded to get rid of them themselves. Could you not make them a good speech of pleasant words, which would cause their hearts to turn against the pigs? Duan looked appealingly at the white man. The government Tuan laughed. I will do my best. Please call all the village fathers together and give me a chance. Tuan took a buffalo horn from the wall of his cottage and blew a long blast on it. It was the signal for assembly. It was used to call the people to worship and to counsel. It was not many minutes until the people could be seen moving towards the teacher's hut from all directions. My friends, the official began, I had not realized the beauty of your village until this morning. You remember, it was nearly dark when I came in last night. This morning, I've had time to look around and see what a lovely spot it is. The government is interested in having some of these villages in beautiful locations, such as this one, to be developed into places which may be visited by strangers to our country, and which will give them a good impression of the people and their habits of living. He looked round on everyone with a disarming smile. Of course, I realize that it is your privilege to keep your pigs as long as they are fenced in yards, where they will not annoy your neighbors. But since you already have so many beautiful gardens here, and such a good start toward making your village one of the finest in the mountains, the government would count it a great favor if you would sell off your pigs and devote yourself to making the whole village like this garden here. He indicated the plot belonging to Kadima's father. I don't pay too much attention to religion, but I must say your pigs have preached the strongest sermon to me I have heard in many a day. After the government, Tawan had gone, there was much discussion. Dawad spent days visiting back and forth among his flock, as well as among the heathen people. Finally, the day was set by the heathen people on which they declared a great feast. Kadima never forgot that day. Early in the morning, the killing of the pigs began. Their great preparation for feasting began among all the heathen villagers. "We may as well eat them all up and be done with them," said Gulan. After the pigs were all gone, the fence was taken down. The flowers and vegetables were shared by all, and there was now no barrier to Gulan's acceptance of the Jesus teaching. "Come to my house, teacher," Gulan said as he appeared at Dawad's hut early one morning, his face wreathed in smiles. "I want you to pray to the God in heaven and ask his blessing on us all. My wife gave birth to a son last night." Kandima, listening from her window, rejoiced. "The pigs and the devils are being driven out of Durian village," she remarked to Chaya. "Come, let us go and see the new baby."